Tại vì bên đây bấm nhầm nút. Good afternoon, everyone. We are Group Butterfly from Tutorial 2, and with the bank management, we choose the BIDV to present to you about today. And we have 5 parts. So the first one is analysis of BIDV. With the BIDV history, BIDV was founded on 26 April 1957 under the initial name of Bank for Construction of Vietnam, founded when the country was active in the periods of economic recovery. In the period 1975 to 1981, the bank joined brand-based economic facility in the South and developed new infrastructure after the war. The bank provides capital for industrial, agricultural, transportation, public welfare projects, and key projects critical for the national economy. BIDV then and in 1990, BIDV conducts its first international business operation by partnering with foreign financial institutions to establish joint venture. BIDV's foreign business operation cover finance, banking, insurance, and security. BIDV has transformed into a commercial bank since then, integrating into the international financial market. Since 1995, BIDV has fully commercial bank. And on 28th December 2011, BIDV implemented acquisition through an IPO. And on 17 April 2012, BIDV officially transformed into the joint stock commercial bank for investment and development of Vietnam, making significant changes to the ownership structure, ensuring transparency through international practice. BIDV has been listed on the stock exchange under the code BID since January 2014, operating effectively in the international competitive market environment. And during the periods, BIDV comprehensively completed its business targets, strengthening competitive capacity and becoming the leading commercial joint stock bank in Vietnam with sustainable development. And we move to the organization and structure of BIDV.
Now I will tell you about BIDV Bank's branch structure. The first is the supervisor, who is the head who holds all the power to manage BIDV's branches. Next are the departments that manage different areas in turn, such as customer relations, risk management, credit management, customer services, treasury management, and many other offices such as finance and accounting, computer room, human resources department, and each customer relationship management department. There will be relationships including individual customer and corporate customer relationship. Similar to the customer service department will also include different services for individual customers and services for business customers. All departments in a BIDV branch have main functions such as make plans, work programs, and find solutions to implement tasks within the assigned functions, guiding documents in the assigned professional field, improve working method, train staff in capacity, expertise, and professional ethics to improve customer service quality, and many other functions.
So I will present about the service for individual. BIDV provide many services for individual customers, including on credit card, debit card, internet banking, and loan. For the credit card, BIDV issued four types of international credit cards of different classes: standard cards, gold cards, platinum cards, and infinite cards. With the international credit card, users can conduct transactions at ATM with a Visa or MasterCard logo in many countries. For debit card, BIDV categorize debit card in two types: the domestic debit card and international debit card. The domestic credit card, BIDV, you can only use a smart card. And for international debit card, customer can register in one or three classes: standard, gold, and platinum. For the internet banking, it offers customers to have online payment more quickly, convenient, and secure. BIDV also offers loans for customers with competitive interest rates, which are calculated on a reduced balance. For different purposes of the loan, such as auto loans, home loans, or overseas education loan, BIDV also offers expert advice to support and consult customers about the loan terms, collateral, periodic payment, or the loan procedure. The next part about the service for business will be delivered by the presenter.
Okay. I will present the services for businesses. For about internet banking, BIDV has built a new online payment gateway connecting the accounting system of institutional customers with the BIDV iBank and electronic banking system. Through BIDV iBank, customer can aggregate data in real time and update account information, deposits, loans, guarantees. Enterprises can manage cash flow flexibly and automatically transfer capital to match their cash flow management needs. BIDV iBank also provides solutions to help businesses manage revenue separately through the system of identity accounts, 24/7 domestic money transfer and international money transfer. And the second thing is credit investment banking. BIDV is committed to providing preferential credit to small and medium enterprises. First, it increases credit capital for small and medium enterprises by implementing a flexible interest rate policy, diversifying credit products, and making a capital contribution. In addition, it also participates in joint venture and associates with small and medium enterprises. It also gives away discount vouchers and lends through the issuance and use of credit cards flexibly, guarantees lower and improve the quality of credit appraisal when lending to small and medium-sized enterprises. Other services provided by the banks are consulting for business, finance restructure, and debt restructuring. Okay, next part, we will present our analysis of bank performance.
We use fundamental analysis to evaluate the bank's performance. Specifically, we exploit the data in the financial statements of a 3-year, 2019, 2020, and 2021 to assess the bank's financial health. We focus on profitability ratios such as ROA, ROE, net interest margin, or net operating income and management efficiency ratio, as the tax management efficiency ratio, asset management and expense control efficiency. And the first, I will assess the manager efficiency by calculating the ROA, return on assets, and ROE, return on equity. And the first, I will tell you about the ROA, return on assets. indicates how efficiently the bank can convert assets into earnings. The higher the bank's ROA, the better its performance and management are. In other words, if the bank takes better use of its assets, it can generate more profit. And the table presents the ROA of the bank over 3 years. Generally, the ROA increased from 0.57% to 0.62%. However, there was a downward movement of ROA in the year 2020 compared to the ROA in the previous year. And the decrease is not a warning signal as ROA bounced back and increased to 0.62% in 2021. The ROA ratio of the bank was more, but it is not a constant. The banks usually have a large proportion of fixed assets, hence the total assets of the bank are large enough to make the returns each year trivial. It is also easy to understand why ROA grow over 3 years worth results more. And now I will tell you about the return on equity ROE.
Return on equity measure the rate of return on distributing to the shareholder. The more effectively a bank uses equity capital, or the better its balance equity and borrowing to take advantage of its competitive during the capital raising and scale-up process, the better the ROE is, and the stock of the bank with higher ROE is more attractive to investors. And the table describes BIDV total shareholder equity, net income, return on equity, and equity multiplier last 3 years. And easily to see, a temporary decline in the net income may be related to a complex situation of the pandemic. The pandemic threatened the firm's growth and indirectly affected the net income of the bank. Return on equity was 12.6% higher than 2020, but lower than in 2017 and 2018, the years before the pandemic. ROE growth regardless of the ongoing pandemic partly indicate that BIDV respond timely to avoid being hurt heavily. Particularly, BIDV enact the necessary policies such as reducing business lending to support enterprise and maintaining certain fixed cash inflow. And we move to the net interest margin.
So the net interest margin is a measure to estimate how much the spread between the interest revenue and interest cost is. By closely controlling earning asset and using the cheapest sources of funding, the bank can achieve a net spread of interest revenue and interest costs. In other words, the bank can generate small profit. And so look at the table. The table here presents the net interest margin in 3 years of BIDV. Overall, the bank interest margin increased from 2.4% to 2.6% during the 3 years. It had witnessed a slight decrease in the 2020, but it is not a concern for the bank. The bank overall, the bank had generated more revenue and it had an outstanding of net interest income of 46,823 billion VND in 2021, which yielded positive result in net income, net interest margin. So it's a good net interest margin. The next part about the net operating income. The trend of net operating income is similar to that of net interest margin. The bank net operating margin increased by 0.048% from 2019 to 2021. The lower net operating margin in 2020 compared to that in 2019 is not a sign indicating that the worst performance of BIDV during the 2 years 2021 and 2020. The pandemic hurt the whole Vietnam economy. So BIDV was not an exception. In that situation, the BIDV net operating margin decreased slightly in only 2020 and then went up to 0.769% in 2021. It indicated that BIDV has successfully adapted to the new situation and enhanced the management to growth. In conclusion, ratios such as NIM or net operating margin demonstrates that BIDV management and staff have fulfilled their role to enhance the efficiency of asset use and increase the profitability of the bank, even in the worst scenario of the pandemic. The next part is the management of efficiency ratio.
In addition to profitability ratio, management ratio related to task, control, efficiency, fund management, and asset management play an essential role in evaluating the bank's performance. The first one I would like to tell you about the task management efficiency. First ratio to consider is the task management efficiency ratio, which measures the percentage of funds earning loss to taxation. Can you see on the table? And I take 3 years, 2019, 2020, and 2021. And I take the formula net income over pre-tax net operatings. So I can gain with 2019, I get 57.4%. 2020, I have 58.8%. And 2021, I get 57%. So with a high task management efficiency ratio, approximately 57, 58%, BIDV lost little to task and its funds were desirable. And the second table, I will analyze expense control efficiency. The second ratio assessing how successfully BIDV will manage it is expense control efficiency ratio. It shows how much the amount of revenue was remained after removing operating expenses from the operating revenue. BIDV expense control efficiency ratio was positive and in average level. Can you see it clearly on the table right now? I get the formula total operating revenue over total assets with 3 years is similar to the first one. And I get 2.73% with 2019 and 2.42% in 2020 and 2.22% in 2021. With a low asset management efficiency ratio, BIDV didn't manage its assets well. Therefore, it suffered from inefficient utilization of assets. It is possible that BIDV was operating below its full capacity.
In the part 3, we will present about the interest rate management. The interest rate management. Here we will analyze by classify it by 2 levels, the portfolio level and transaction level. In 2019, BIDV diversified its investment security portfolio to manage and control the interest rate risk. Significantly, the total trading security and investment security were 127,867 billion, equivalent to approximately 9.3% of total assets. The next year also saw an increase in the number of trading security, approximately 3,804 million VND in 2021 held to maturity security with a total value of 65,711 billion, were 3 times as much as that of the year 2020. By investing in diversified portfolios, the bank can increase the profit and control liquidity and interest rate risk.
And next, I will tell you about the interest sensitive management. A firm's exposure to interest rate risk is measured by an interest rate gap. The gap is referred to as the comparison between the amount of interest-bearing assets and interest-bearing liabilities in each period. The banking sector is where interest rate gaps are most frequently observed. Bank borrows funds at one interest rate and lends it out at another higher. The gap or difference between the two rates represents the bank's profit. A bank will have a negative gap and become liability sensitive when its interest rate sensitive liabilities are higher than its interest rate sensitive assets or vice versa. In the case of the positive gap, interest rates increase, the bank's profit and revenue can also increase. And as you can see in the table describe BIDV's interest sensitive gap in the last 3 years. In 2019, interest sensitive management is over 24 million, and in 2020 and 2021, it is reduced about more than 56 millions. From the chart, we can easily see that all values are given positive, so BIDV has a positive gap during the 3 years from 2019 to 2021. However, as a result of the COVID-19, the interest sensitive gap shrank by roughly 30 million Vietnam dong in 2020 and subsequently by 0.1 million Vietnam dong in 2021. When the bank began to adjust to COVID sequence, the decline is a result of reduced interest rate policy in 2020 and 2021, which will enhance and lessen the burden on businesses to pay high interest rate.
At this point, net profit margin NIM will be a much needed tool to be used to see if BIDV has achieved success in its investment decisions related to its debt situation. When the cost of borrowing results is higher than the return on investment, coupled with a net interest rate of less than 1, it can be lead to the conclusion that the bank cannot make the optimal decision. As mentioned in the performance part, the net interest margin is calculated as NIM equal interest income minus interest expense over total interest earning assets. So I have the result here. In 2019, I have NIM equal 2.41%. 2020, I have 2.36%. And the last one, 2021, I have 2.66%. Based on the chart above, BIDV net profit margin decreased slightly. So from this result, BIDV has been successful in being able to make investment decisions related to the total assets.
Now we move to the fourth part, the capital management. The law on credit institution and the law on SPV were both originally published in 1997. The SPV issue decision 296 and 297 2 years later to implement Basel line regulation to Vietnam, including client credit restriction, minimum capital requirement, and assets classification into foreign category. And accordingly, a bank has enough capital when its car greater than 10%, appropriate capital when the car greater than 8%, and inadequate capital when the car is smaller than 8%. And commercial bank can fulfill the minimum capital requirement due to the fundamental issue they have managing the effect of the Asian financial crisis. So, and with BIDV, 10 selected commercial bank by SPV for piloting the Basel II implementation. BIDV demonstrated strong determination to implement Basel standards. Since 2015, BIDV has engaged a consultant to implement the gap analysis and develop Basel implementation roadmap. During the period of 2015 to 2019, BIDV has simultaneously conducted various projects to comply with Basel II standard relating to the following issues: a risk management organization structure under Basel standards, data governance and data warehouse system, methodology of management of material risk, measurement and management of material risk, and enhancing audit capability under Basel II standard. And we move to specific situation in BIDV.
By the end of 2018, BIDV is one with the largest total assets of BND 1.313 billion in the Vietnamese banking system today. BIDV also had the highest net profit of more than 28.300 billion with VND from business activities. However, with the provisioning for risk amounting to more than VND 18.800 billion, the large in the banking system had already made up 2/3 of the profits. BIDV net profit in 2018 was only VND 7.358 billion, showing a size of 3 when compared to the lower rank bank due to the provisioning for risk, or more specifically, the situation of bad debt handling and control. Credit has had a great time impact on the profitability of banks. SC estimates that BIDV Tier 1 capital may increase by about 30% equivalent to VND 18 trillion after being able to complete the capital sale to strategic partner in the first half of 2019. Something that BIDV will see individual 50% share on capital after issuance at the current market price of 30,000 VND per share. After that, the bank will have an additional 9,000 billion of room to raise Tier 2 capital. The CAR is projected to be increased from 9% to 13%. At that time, BIDV may be outside a credit growth limit higher than 14% by the SBV after completing the private placement to increase capital. The capital plan is formulated according to the capital requirements of the management agency and economic capital according to the bank's internal assessment. The bank internal assessment ensures that the bank meets the requirements of its risk profile and other commitments. Better comply the CAR minimum requirement by setting a minimum CAR target of 8%. Ensure the sustainable implementation of the bank business strategies. Allow the bank to decline steadily or even during period of economic fluctuation. According to NSI Security Company, after accelerating credit in the last month of the year and deciding to pay their 2019 dividend in cash at the rate of 8%, BIDV capital adequacy ratio CAR has decreased to 8.34% at the end of 2020 from 8.77% at 31 December 2019. Tier 1 capital ratio is only 5.88%. Tier 2 bond balance is close to the limits. As it is said that BIDV plans to issue maximum of 8.5% of charter capital through public or private investment in the period 2020 and 2021. Okay, next part, we will talk about liquidity and lending management.
As we all know, liquidity is the ability to convert into cash of an asset product. Thus, liquidity risk is the risk arising when a commercial bank is insolvent at a certain point in time or fails to promptly convert assets into cash or is unable to mobilize or raise funds, mobilize capital sources at high cost to meet payment needs. This happens when assets of the company cannot be sold due to lack of buyers, also with too large a difference between buying and selling price. According to the regular report for the last 3 years, BIDV has fully implemented and managed liquidity risk in accordance with the current regulations of the State Bank of Vietnam. At the same time, banks apply suitable advanced practice. The document system will issue significantly including policies, regulation, and guidance documents. BIDV also identify, measure, monitor, control risk, and reported in compliance with the State Bank's regulations and internal governance requirements. Current ratio and net working capital are the data that have them evaluate that. And from the table we calculate, it is easy to see that BIDV's current ratio is at a very stable level. In the last 3 years, it has been kept at 1x. Besides, BIDV's working capital from 2019 to 2021 has increased significantly, increasing about over 75 million Vietnam dong in just 3 years consecutive years. Thus, BIDV's net current asset position is considered relatively stable.
Lending management is one of the ways for the BIDV to assess the bank performance. A well-performed bank manages lending activity professionally and efficiently in order to generate the potential profit and minimize the credit risk. And for BIDV, it divided the loan for individual or corporate loan. Based on the maturity, it can categorize the loan into short-term loan, medium-term loan, or long-term loan. But the most popular and efficient way of managing loan is to categorize it based on the risk level, such as standard loan, special mention loan, substandard, doubtful, or not. When we classify the loan into standard, special mention, substandard, or doubtful or not, we will not assign it with the provision rate. For example, for standard loan, it means that The loan is repaid timely and with the principal and interest payment. For the special mention loan, the payment of interest or principal is paid fully, but it is a sign of delayed payment. For the substandard loan, the interest and the principal are not fully recovered on due. And for doubtful loan, the debt had high probability of default. And for the loan is considered as loss, the debt is considered as bad debt and unlikely to recover. In conclusion, we evaluate BIDV performance based on key ratio on financial statement, interest rate management, capital management, and liquidity and lending management. After the analysis, we find that the BIDV operated stably in the 3 years from 2019 to 2021. Also, there is no potential risk related to the management of interest rates, capital, liquidity, and lending. However, BIDV seemingly have a shortcomings related to the management of operating cost, tax, and asset. Hopefully, the bank can improve its shortcomings and remain the high-profile firm position in the banking industry. So it is the end of our presentation. Thank you for listening.
Ok, xong rồi từ nhưng mà đoạn đầu lưu record ở đâu nhỉ? You cannot minimize.
Như vậy thôi thì chắc là phải out meeting thì nó mới convert được.
Đúng rồi. Tắt luôn nha.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Mọi người.